Welcome back everyone to another video, and today we are reacting to my 2023 tier list for all the quarterbacks heading into last season. So first off, let's just say I've done two of these now, one for receivers and one for teams. You guys did seem to really like both of those. I wanted to do this one. It took me a bit longer to get this one out. The other thing is, so for the first one of these we did it on teams, and I was actually able to go back and find the original footage of like what I said for every single team exactly and piece that in there, so you guys got to kind of see that and then see, obviously me talking, today, reacting to that take. I'm gonna be honest, it can take a while for me to edit those, and I am actually really working on a lot of the team specific videos coming out in a few weeks. Well, really just in a few days, actually, for the first one. But yeah, we're going to be doing this pretty consistently all summer for breakdowns for each team's entire 2024 NFL season. And we're putting a lot of work into those to make them as accurate as possible. So this one is just going to be me looking at the tier list and reacting to it the same as I did the receiver one. So I do apologize if you guys rather the other way, but hopefully this still works as well. And at the end, we will calculate, like I have for the other ones, my percentage, basically my accuracy on my predictions for last season. So I'm going to kind of breeze through the guys down there like at F tier and get to the more interesting players and more interesting takes I had. Starting in the F tier, so we have Bailey Zappi, Drew Lock, and Davis Mills. I just assume these guys are just going to be kind of non-factors and just threw them down there, which for the most part I would say is correct, but Drew Lock was probably the best out of them. And if you wanted to put Drew Lock in D tier, that's fine too, but it is what it is there. Sam Darnold, he got in for a time, I guess, but again, that's probably not enough to rank. Hendon Hooker did not get in. Andy Dalton he honestly played pretty well when he did get in against Seattle, but again, D tiers, he didn't really play, so it just kind of threw him down there. Same with Jacoby Brissett. Will Levis, that's a bit of a miss. I would say he was probably C tier. I wouldn't quite say D tier. If you guys would, then I guess that one's correct, but I feel like he's more accurately a C tier quarterback compared to the other guys we have down there in D tier. I think Levis was a bit of a step ahead of guys like Zach Wilson, for instance. And after Levis was Stetson Bennett. I don't know why I put him there. I have literally no idea what compelled me to do that. And then Zach Wilson. So, I guess it goes without saying, but Stetson Bennett, that one is correct. He was, non-factor. Zach Wilson, kind of the same thing for him. Just not really piecing it together like the Jets would have liked. Same for Jameis. Baker's a huge miss, though. And Baker, you could honestly probably throw him in A tier, and I wouldn't really blink at that. But, I think at the very worst, he was B tier. Put together an excellent season with the Buccaneers. Very respectable season, to be honest, when they were projected to be pretty bad, and they went to the divisional round and lost a close one to a really good team at that, too, with the Lions. So, way off on that one. Baker is much, much higher. And then Malik Willis and Marcus Mariota, yeah, D tier. And also, I could probably find this if I really wanted to, but if anyone knows who this guy is right here, I guess he was a rookie last year. I don't know who he is, but he looks like a guy hired to play Desmond Ridder in a movie about Bijan Robinson. And then for C tier, so we'll spend a bit more time on these because these are the more kind of relevant players per se. So Ryan Tannehill, you could probably throw him down in D tier. We'll call that one incorrect. He had a pretty bad season. And not much to talk on for him. Same with Garoppolo. I would even put him in D tier as well, to be honest. Both those guys, pretty similar seasons, very disappointing. But then Jordan Love, though, this is where things get interesting. So Jordan Love, A tier in my opinion, at least the way he finished the season. Overall, maybe you put him in B tier. He did have a rough start this season. He had some rough games in there. So again, B or A tier for him. Either way, it's incorrect. He's definitely not C tier. Bryce Young, you could leave in C tier. You could even drop him down to D tier if you just really, really hated that year. I think even though, I watched a lot of Panthers games, obviously. While he wasn't, the sole reason they were bad and like why he performed badly, he still performed badly. And at the end of the day, that's probably D tier. And then next is CJ Stroud. So again, way off on this. Personally, I would say you could probably put him in S tier at the lowest A tier. CJ Stroud was beyond a B tier correct last season. He was absolutely unbelievable. Texans, 3 wins when they drafted him, and then in one season turned out a new head coach and a new quarterback. And yeah, they went all the way to the divisional round, the AFC, a very, very tough conference too. So great year from CJ Stroud. Absolutely did not see that coming. I thought he'd be a good quarterback. I've been pretty consistent about that in all my past videos. You go back and watch. I just didn't think it'd all come together in year one, and especially at the jump it did. Like, I mean, he jumped a lot of good quarterbacks in this league. So that one is definitely wrong. Same with Stafford. So this is actually, I was actually pretty disappointed in myself because looking back on it, I wasn't really confident with Stafford bouncing back from his injuries and just, I didn't like the Rams going to last year at all as a whole, to be honest. I didn't like their offense. I didn't like their defense really. With, it was what, Ramsey, I think, left or whatever. So that was a bit of a loss there. I didn't feel like they had a whole lot at running back, but Kyron Williams stepped up big. Obviously, I didn't see that coming either. But Stafford, to his credit, played absolutely unbelievable, to be honest, for a comeback season. And he had guys like Puka Nacua stepping up. So, yeah, that's definitely my bad on Stafford. That one's incorrect. Stafford was probably more B or even A tier. I think he was a top 10 quarterback last year, to be honest. At least, top 12, 13. He's got to be somewhere in there. He was unbelievable. Mac Jones, yeah, C tier. You can put him in B, and even in D tier. We'll count that one as correct. I don't think he's quite D tier, but it was a bad season for Mac Jones. Kyler Murray, I'm going to leave him in C tier. I think, I guess leave him. At the end, I will move everybody around, by the way. I forgot to say that, actually. I will move everybody around to where they probably should have gone. But yeah, Kyler Murray, we'll leave him there because when he came back, he actually was, kind of, not, 100% Kyler Murray, and the Cardinals weren't a great team, but I think he wasn't. He was a step ahead of like Zach Wilson for sure. So we'll leave him there. Anthony Richardson, that one really sucks to see because he was probably, in a very small sample size, granted, probably on pace to be more like B tier, but got hurt. That one will just not even count or something. I'm not really sure like how we'll score that one at the end, but yeah, that kind of sucks to see. Desmond Ridder, I guess he's C tier. I just don't like him. I don't like the Falcons as a Panthers fan. I always keep my bias aside, though, as much as possible whenever I do rankings. But I don't like Ridder, with my bias included, and without it, I don't like him either. He's held that team back a lot. So, maybe D tier. We'll count as C tier, though. And then same for Derek Carr, C tier. Nothing special. Didn't really elevate the Saints. But I will say with Derek Carr, though, I think overall it's a C tier year. And this is kind of like what I said for Jordan Love. But at the end of the season, he did actually play pretty strong. So if you were to put him in B tier, I could understand that. Personally, I would not. I think overall as a year, it was just not that good. But he did actually finish somewhat strong. The only thing was that it was kind of, the Saints were already out of playoff contention, so it was kind of all for nothing. But he did, to his credit, finish the season fairly strong. And then Justin Fields, this is a really tough one to score. I really feel like, because, he missed a few games. If he stayed healthy, he probably would have had a B tier season. And I've said this before in past videos, I'll say it again. I feel bad for Fields because, he sat through this rebuild, retool, whatever you want to call it, where the Bears was really not that good and he struggled a ton. But he has, bit by bit, got better each year. And now that the Bears going to next year have a great offense around him, I think Fields would have been good. It sucks. I would have loved to see just one more season with Fields in there. I do ultimately think the Bears made the right decision getting Caleb Williams. I don't think you could really pass on him. But yeah, I hope the best for Fields going into this year. As of last year, though, he's probably more like C tier. I don't think he did enough to be in B tier. But, we'll see how we scored that one at the end as well. And then next is Geno Smith. I think B tier is kind of a solid spot for him. Maybe you guys are dropping down to C tier, but I think the Seahawks were just kind of a solid team pretty much, and that's really, nothing more, nothing less. It's not bad, but you weren't, exceptionally good either. So I think Geno does belong in that B tier. But Brock Purdy, too low. I think he's probably A tier. I definitely underestimated him a bit going into last season. I was still a little skeptical after, his run he went on last year. I kind of wanted to see it, a bigger sample size, and he did that. Great season, Super Bowl appearance, came up short, but still great season. So Brock Purdy, definitely A tier. I think I'm probably a level below. I had him probably a level below where he should have been. Kenny Pickett, whether you'd put him C tier or D tier, I don't know, but B tier is incorrect. I'm not gonna lie, I fell for the off season. I don't want to say videos, but I fell for the training camp stuff, and then even in preseason, he looked good in preseason. He finished last season strong in the actual game, so I was like, yeah, it's all coming together. George Pickens, year 2, and I don't know what it was. He just didn't put together, so that one is incorrect. The next is Dak. Dak's too low. In my opinion, I think Dak's definitely A tier. He had a great season. Very disappointing end to the season. I think the Cowboys put together some monster year overall. Especially offensively. CeeDee Lamb was unguardable all year. Dak looked great. and then you get bounced first round to a first-year starting quarterback. It's rough at home. It's rough. That's really all there is to say about it. But individually, though, as this, kind of the whole season into account, I would say Dak was probably A tier. That one's incorrect. Next is Russell Wilson. This is a very tough one for me because I feel like he's right on the bubble of B and C. Like, he's like lower end B tier, higher end C tier. We'll wait on scoring that at the end. In videos past that I've done just like this, whenever it was like an up in the air kind of pick like that, I'll do one where I count all of those and then one where I don't count all of the bubble ones, and then I'll give like a range of percentages of like I was, at worst this, at best this, if that makes sense. And if it doesn't right now, it'll make sense at the end, I promise. But yeah, Russell Wilson, kind of a tough one. We'll just kind of leave that for the end. Trey Lance, I need someone to like smack me in the head with a hammer. I don't know why I had him in B tier. I don't know what this was, because if I made this video and he was still in the 49ers, then I thought him and Brock Purdy would be just as good as each other. That doesn't make any sense. But if I didn't ever use on the Cowboys, then I had it like I don't understand that. So yeah, I don't know. But to be clear, that one is wrong. Next is Sam Howell, and I think statistically he's probably B tier, but I mean I feel like it was more of a C tier year because Washington was really bad. Some of those stats really came from garbage time as well, so it's a little misleading to look at that statistically. I'm gonna call that like a bubble player. We'll see at the end how I score that, because I think statistically it's a B tier year, but just really looking at the games and why those numbers were what they were, is probably more of a C tier year. This is where things get interesting though. So A tier with Tua, I would say this is probably correct. I personally wouldn't have Tua lower than B tier or lower than A tier. I don't think he was S tier either, but I think A tier is a good spot for him. Trevor Lawrence though, so this one is incorrect because I feel like Trevor Lawrence, from what we saw in 2022, I think was definitely A tier, but we didn't see the best of Trevor Lawrence last year, and it's undeniable looking at his numbers before and after that injury last year. I think it was his ankle, I think, maybe even a shoulder or something at some point, I think, but I know ankle for sure. And those numbers did decline. His mobility hurt. It was just, very kind of discombobulated down the stretch. So yeah, that one's incorrect. I think Trevor Lawrence is definitely an A tier quarterback when healthy. I don't think we got to see a full season of healthy Trevor Lawrence though. So yeah, that one's incorrect though. And then Herbert also hurt. That one's incorrect. And then Aaron Rodgers also. That one's incorrect. And that really, like, Rodgers going down in the first 55 whatever seconds of the opening game was so deflating, I feel like. Like, it was a huge storyline. Probably like the biggest one last offseason was Rodgers to the Jets. He's bringing Lazard with him. Randall Cobb's even going with him. He has Garrett Wilson now. And then it was just all gone in 50 seconds. So, yeah, that was brutal. I'm going to stand on that. Like, that one's incorrect, but I really feel like if Rodgers was healthy, it would have been an A tier year. I mean, that guy, like, a few years ago, like, his last healthy season, or I think second to last healthy season was an MVP year, and the year before that was an MVP year, so it's like back-to-back MVPs. Like, I think this guy still has, some juice left in the tank, but hopefully he bounces back from that Achilles tear, though, because that's, 40-year-old quarterback. Hopefully he bounces back from that. But, yeah, that one's incorrect. That one sucks. Jared Goff, though, I'm going to count this as correct. I personally would not have Jared Goff at S tier. We might move him up there based on how these fall whenever I move them around. And if I do, I guess I could count it as incorrect. We'll see how I do that one. But I feel like Goff was definitely A tier at the worst. He had a phenomenal season, led the Lions all the way to the NFC Championship. Really close to a Super Bowl, too. I mean, it really probably should have been a Super Bowl appearance. But regardless, great season from him. All props to him, the Lions. And then we have Daniel Jones. This one is incorrect. I don't know where to start with this. Actually, no, I do know where to start. Week 1, when they played Dallas and got shut out by, like, what, was it 34 points? 35? Was it in the 40s? I don't remember. But I remember sitting there thinking, like, yeah, that Daniel Jones prediction is probably incorrect. Like, off one game, I was like, yeah, that was probably a fluke year. Because all offseason, I was like, I don't think it was a fluke year. I think Daniel Jones is going to follow it up. And that first game was just not at all what we saw from the Giants the previous year. And they never really bounced back from that much. I think they had a really nice comeback win against the Cardinals. But other than that, terrible year. Jones gets hurt. It sucks. That's incorrect. He was probably more C tier. And then Kirk Cousins. This one sucks even more because Cousins was really on pace to probably be S tier, to be honest. That might be a bit of a hot take. I don't know. But if you go back and look at Cousins and how he was playing I mean, he was really, he was probably going to be in MVP conversations. I don't think he would have won it on the pace he was at, but I think his name would have been at least mentioned because the Vikings were playing not terrible football. They lost a game or two at that time, but I mean, with Jefferson, I think he also got banged up. I can't remember if that was before or after Cousins, but I mean, Cousins was really balling. He was doing great with Jordan Addison too. So yeah, that one's really unfortunate. That one's incorrect. Obviously, big injury there. But yeah, so now for the S tier quarterbacks. So number one is Jalen Hurts. I want to be very clear. That is not in any, all of these are in no particular order. Okay, I'm not saying that Jalen Hurts is the best quarterback in the league and that Mahomes is the fifth. Okay, just to clear that up right away because just being, upfront about that one. Hurts is incorrect. We did not see the same consistency we saw from that Super Bowl year. Unfortunately, just wasn't there. I think a lot of that was coaching. I think a lot of that was also just the wind being taken out of their sails a little bit at the end of the season. They just kind of imploded. It seemed like all at once. The secondary struggled, and then the offense struggled, and you get bounced first round. So, yeah, it was a rough end of the season for the Eagles, and that one is incorrect. And then also, Burrow goes down. I think Burrow is a top 5 talent in the NFL. Last year, obviously, was not. He didn't play much. He was pretty much hurt the entire season, off and on. So that one is incorrect. But I'm actually going to say my Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Mahomes picks are all correct. I think all those guys were S-tier quarterbacks last year. First off, with Josh Allen, he really brought the Bills from, struggling pretty bad by, week 8 or 9. Complete season turnaround. Great wild card win. I really wish for his sake he could go over the, roadblock in the playoffs of, playing the Chiefs. But still, great year to make that a respectable season because the Bills were looking like, there was a time, week 10, week 11, they weren't in the playoff picture. And that he really kind of helped will that team back in the playoff picture and ultimately made the playoffs. So good on him. Next is Lamar. And I think this one goes without saying, why I felt pretty confident about him being S tier, and I think this aged pretty well because he's MVP. And going to last season, I was very confident in Lamar because of all the weapons around him. He had not had those kind of receivers at his disposal really his entire season. Zay Flowers is absolutely unbelievable for a rookie. You also had Odell, who was, fairly reliable as well. Mark Andrews, of course. Isaiah Likely is even pretty good. And I know I'm forgetting someone that's now bothering me. But regardless, Lamar, unbelievable year. And then finally, Patrick Mahomes. That's all that really is to say about that one. So I'm going to go ahead and add up the ones I got right and wrong. I'm going to count all bubble teams or all bubble players correct. And then I'm going to do one and count all bubble players incorrect. And then we'll find that kind of range of percent, if that makes sense. Okay, so first go through counting up all these. I counted 16 incorrect, not counting guys that were on the bubble. I counted all those as correct. Now we'll do one as counting all those guys as incorrect. So counting these up, the only real bubble players I see here is Levis, which is 1, Derek Carr, which is 2, Sam Howell 3, and then we'll say Justin Fields with 4, I think I just said. Yeah, so 4 with Justin Fields. And so that brings it to, instead of 16 incorrect, to 20 incorrect. So basically, best I did, counting all the bubble players as correct, is 64% correct. And then counting all the bubble players as incorrect is 50% correct. So I was somewhere between 50% and 64% correct for predicting all quarterbacks entering the 2023 NFL season, which honestly, I'll take. That's the best I've done so far on all this kind of stuff. Granted, I did rank a lot more wide receivers in this. I think I ranked like 80 something. So, it's a bit different. There's a lot more guys to rank, but still. Alright guys, this is me currently editing the video and realizing I totally forgot to actually rearrange all the players to remake the list if I could for 2023 while I was recording. So I went ahead and did that right now. We're going to go with this pretty quickly here, starting with S tier. And also, just to be clear, I did get rid of some of the guys that just didn't really matter and just kind of crowded up the list, like Marcus Mariota and Jameis Winston, and guys that just really just all around didn't play enough. Starting with S tier, I want to be very clear here so Lions fans don't kill me. As far as Dak goes, I have him very interchangeable with Jared Goff, so I totally understand having Goff over him. Personally, if I had to choose, I'd go with Dak, because I do think he had the all-around better regular season, especially statistically. I guess by, I think 400 yards, I think is what it was, and about 5 or so more touchdowns, so he just barely gets the edge there, but again, Jared Goff and him both led amazing offenses, so again, they're pretty interchangeable. But as far as S tier goes, I'm pretty happy with that. And then even A tier, Baker Mayfield had a huge year, like 35 touchdowns or so, divisional round appearance from the Buccaneers. So I love the season from him. He's got to be A tier. Same with Jordan Love. Finished really, really strong, though he kind of struggled a little bit at the beginning of the season. Same with Brock Purdy, Super Bowl appearance. And then, you know, Tua and Matthew Stafford as well, just in there in A tier. B tier. So we have Jalen Hurts and Justin Herbert here. Justin Herbert actually played more games than I actually realized, so I don't have him in the injured category. He played 13 weeks. So we have him there because even though the Chargers were not very good and he was hurt, you know, kind of on and off, he still had, you know, around that 20 touchdown mark, and he still played fairly well. Then Jalen Hurts is actually down here because he turned the ball over too much, and the late season kind of implosion from the Eagles, just I couldn't put him much higher than that. And Trevor Lawrence, same as Hurts, really. Like, we've seen him be better than that, turn the ball over too much. And the Jaguars, they come up a bit short as far as the division title and all that kind of stuff. So that's why he's there in B tier as well. And as far as C tier goes, or I'm sorry, actually, no, back to B tier, I have Gardner Minshew there because, you know, he made the Colts competitive. He stepped in there, and he had a solid season, even though statistically he wasn't as good as, like, Derek Carr and Sam Howell, who were actually below him. You know, he kept his team in games, and they won, and that was really the difference for me. Because then when you come down here to C tier, you know, Sam Howell and Derek Carr both, I think a lot of those numbers are kind of just garbage time numbers. Derek Carr, not as much, but he was putting up those numbers, and his best games were at the end of the season when the Saints were already out of playoff contention. So it was kind of like the season's already kind of over, kind of lost, and he just wasn't kind of elevating his team to win any of those games. And same with Sam Howell. A lot of those numbers came from garbage time. I mean, Commanders were really getting blown up by like 30 points throughout the season, so that's why I couldn't have him much higher than that. And then for Kyler Murray and Will Levis, is a little skewed because they didn't play as much as the other guys. So yes, they're in C tier. With a full season, they would have been, you know, they could have been much higher than this. So just kind of, you know, that's just kind of where I put them because statistically, Kyler Murray's probably right around there, I guess. Will Levis would statistically be more D tier, but you know he did play better than that in the time he did play because, again, he didn't get a full season. And even though some of those guys in D tier didn't get a full season either, they just struggled a lot more than he did, at least in my opinion. So that's why he's there. And even Bryce Young, as bad as he played, you know, he still did play better than, like, Kenny Pickett. He had, like, 800 more yards than, more touchdowns. And those guys in D-Tri, I felt, just really struggled the most. And then as far as injury category goes, pretty self-explanatory. Those guys missed a lot of weeks to where it just really wasn't fair to properly rank them, I felt like. And so, again, I'm sure you guys disagree with parts of this. This is really, if I had to do it, I'm not really hard set in a lot of these. I feel like some of these guys could really go either way as far as some of the tiers go. So let me down below what you guys would do for this. But yeah, that is me kind of re-ranking the 2023 quarterbacks if I could from this past season. Just to be clear, this is not for 2024. This was from this past season based off performance if I were to rank them now. But yeah, there you go. If you guys enjoyed the video though, be sure to subscribe for more videos like this. I will not be doing any more reacting videos. I mean, I guess it's kind of like a reacting video, but I will definitely be ranking players and teams going to the next season still. We haven't even done an installment of that in a minute, so we will definitely be doing that very soon. We'll be ranking quarterbacks, wide receivers, running backs. That's what I typically do. I can also mix in tight ends if you guys want to see that. I also do offenses as a whole and defense as a whole, and then also just teams as a whole. We also have a series coming up very, very soon, later this week, where it's going to be like an hour-long focus on team-specific videos, which will be going over offense, defense, players, injury history for players, schedule, strength of schedule, all kinds of stuff, and predicting their record for next season, giving a breakdown. And yeah, I'll also do like my power rankings later on this offseason as well. So tons of football content one way or another. Also in July with the college football game coming out, I'll also be doing videos on that. So, and doing bad videos. So it's always football content, whether it's video games or real life. So if that sounds interesting to you, be sure to subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. On the road to 1,000, so thanks for all the support there. I do really appreciate it. And yeah, that's all for this. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.